If there's a prize for rotten judgment, I guess
This I've already won.
no man is worth salvation. That's ancient history. Been there, done that.
If you think you can, here's the open head. We can, we can continue. We know how you're feeling. We can.
No way, I won't say you don't know.
You saw right in my oh.
I thought my heart had learned its lesson. It feels so good when you start out. My head is screaming, get a grip, God. Unless you're dying to try.
Your heart out. Here you are, baby. Just like a grown up when you go.
No chance, no way, I won't say it, no. Give it a won't play, I won't say I'm in love. We are next to all days, I won't say get off my head, don't be proud, it's okay, you're in love. At least out loud, I won't say I'm in love.
Oh my. That song brings back so many memories, given my taste in men and my hopeless romantic ways.
Yeah. Citations, lovebirds, and hopeless romantics. Welcome to podcast The Storm, where bleeding hearts, soulful poets, and all-around sad sacks come to debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone.
And I am your host / Timeline Wannabe, the brainstormer pop culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
I am doing well, I think. I've been binge watching a lot of stuff over the last week or so. I don't know why. I just got into a binge watching mood, and now I've sped all the way through Dragon Prince and all the way through Umbrella, or almost all the way through Umbrella Academy. I'm gonna be annoyed when I'm out of stuff to binge.
You'll never be out of things to binge.
Well, good things to binge. I mean, there's plenty of things to binge which I would rather not binge, but que sera, I guess.
Yeah. So it's obviously our last day for February. Actually, being the last day for February, and we'll play catch up in the next upcoming weeks.
Yeah, because apparently we can go several months where nothing of significance happens, but we turn our backs for the news cycle equivalent of 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it's like all the news, break all the news, all of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we already got something set. We already got some stuff set up for next week. We got so we're going to try and finish the was it it's Vulture, right?
I think so.
Yeah, the Vox article. 16 Candles. We will be continuing from where we left off. So if you guys want to see the first half, please check out Podcast The Storm 103. Basically, we do practically the whole show with that.
Yeah. So also, since today is 104, we've officially been doing this for 2 goddamn years.
No, it's 103. I am so sorry. 102 last week.
Okay. Well, next week we will have officially been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah.
Because there are 52 weeks in a year, and we do this on a weekly basis. Ergo, as of next week, we will have been doing it for 2 years.
Yep. Give me a sec to kind of clean my eyes. I can read in goddamn glasses. I wear contacts, but I I don't think they work for me.
Yeah, contacts are a pain in the ass. I don't blame you.
And I got a grandfather who wears them from time to time. Because
I never used contacts because I think I might have tried putting them in one time and it was just like, nope. Nope, 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 nope. Fuck this.
there's always a chance you might accidentally poke your eye out, and I don't want to take that chance. Plus, I think I rock glasses.
Yeah, you look pretty good in them.
Yeah. I got that nerdy swagger.
Never say that again.
I just might. I might. Okay, yeah, but anyway,
This is my friend, folks. These are the people I have chosen to call my friends. That's the thing I did.
My friend, you chose to be my friend. You knew what you were getting.
This is true. I'm just once again one of those moments of like, are these the life choices I've made? Really? Wah, wah, wah. I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah. So this is from Vox.com. This was published a few years ago. The rape culture of the 1980s explained by 16 Candles. Like I said, in Podcast the Storm number 102, we did the first half, and now we're going to try and finish it and then move on to other stuff we have.
Although, to be fair, if you just want to watch this one, you probably won't be missing much because he spends about the first half of the article not even talking about 16 Candles, really. So,
yeah.
No.
Bad City Stuff. Hello. Welcome to whatever this is. The only thing better than reading the newspaper while you take a dump is liking this video. Thank you for that image.
I agreed that mental image did not need to be inserted into my brain where it will now be lodged for several days, but fuck you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So yeah. 16 Candles. Jake Ryan is the dream boy of the 1980s. He is also an accessory to date rape.
No. When he is saying, I've got Caroline up in that bedroom there and I could do whatever I want to her, he is saying that she would consent to him. And given that she got drunk specifically to have sex in the context of the movie, it is entirely likely that the reason she got drunk in the first place was to make consent easier for herself. If you want to take an issue with that, then you have to take an issue with the female character in this situation, because in this situation, the man is not overstepping his boundaries. He is simply aware that by virtue of him being the high school heartthrob that all the girls and probably several of the guys, but shush, we shouldn't talk about that, pine for, that she's likely going to consent to him, and that's probably why she's in that situation to begin with, if we're all being honest. Because party girls do exist. They're not exactly responsible. They're not exactly likable in most cases, but they do exist.
That City Stuff says the Disney Channel remade 16 Candles with Debbie Ryan, but made it really G-rated. That
wasn't supposed to be a remake. It was just also called 16 Candles.
Yeah, like I thought that was
it was just using the title again. It wasn't supposed to be connected at all. If it was a remake of anything, it was supposed to be a remake of Cinderella, because that's basically the plot of the Disney Channel version. Is the random magical woman, possibly a fairy godmother, shows up, gives her these magic candles that like grants her 16 childhood wishes that she's had ever since she was a kid, and then she finds out that whoops, the wishes made of a 5-year-old that you've been pining after for however long years don't translate well into real life charms. Who knew?
Yeah.
And then it was the usual, retconned wish of like, I wish I never met you at the end, and the overall message of, be careful what you wish for, magic comes with a price, yada yada yada.
Yeah, story-wise, she was a popular girl, and she gets 16 candles, and each one grants magic wish.
Yep.
I barely remember that movie, honestly. I remember watching it, but I barely remember anything of it.
The movie I remember with Debbie Ryan in it from Disney Channel is the one where she has like an imaginary self-insert version of herself, and she writes like self-insert fan fiction about herself, but it accidentally gets published as like a narrative essay of hers. So now everyone knows her deepest darkest secrets because all the characters in this self-insert um fantasy are thinly veiled references to other people in her life, and now everyone knows. It's basically like she accidentally publishes her
Yeah,
slightly fictionalized diary.
yeah.
I
I,
don't remember what that one's called though, off the top of my
I
head.
remember Radio Rebel.
Was that Disney Channel? I don't remember that one.
That was Disney Channel. It never really fell off the map, honestly, but that's a conversation for another time. Uh, they legitimately remade 16 Candles with Debbie Ryan, but did it G-rated and called it 16 Wishes. In the movie, Debbie Ryan gets 16 candles, and each one grants a magic wish.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a 16 Candles remake. It's just supposed to be another thing that also happens to have the number 16 in it, and it only has the number 16 in it because she was turning 16 in the movie, and it was supposed to be a play on how the 16th birthday is supposed to be really important and stuff.
I never understood that. I didn't have that big of a whatever. Okay. The 80s were a decade of film comedy hugely informed by the recent success of 1978's Animal House, which features a rape fantasy scene filmed in what critic Emily Nussbaum describes as the pervious possible way.
I'm unfamiliar or only loosely familiar with Animal House, so I'm not going to be of much help here.
Yeah,
But I do I suspect very strongly that the author is connecting two things in a trend that don't belong together. I mean, the 80s just sort of emerged that way. It wasn't really a reaction to any specific movie or any specific series of movies. It's just a genre that emerged in the same way that in like 2008 and 2009 the superhero genre finally became a genre unto its own after being diphthonged into generic sci-fi action movies for most of the previous decade.
yeah. Okay. It was a decade that gave us Revenge of the Nerds, which, as Noah Brand put it at the Good Men Project. That sounds like a okay.
It's feminist men trying to determine what the feminist approved version of masculinity would be.
So basically, like really horny, pathetic dudes trying to impress feminists to fuck them.
Yep, because I'm the one good man. Don't
You have to
don't be with all those toxically masculine assholes. What with their assertiveness and everything? Be with me instead. Derp.
I'm paraphrasing Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. Charles Dance. You know, that's an amazing actor. Like I know he's kind of old now, but he really needs to get more work. Honestly, maybe voice work. But it's his. Any man who has to say he is the king is no true king. So
agreed.
My paraphrase of that is any man who has to say, what was the exact wording he used?
I'm the one good man.
Yeah, any man who has to say he's the one good man is not the one good man. Is not a good man in general.
Yeah, and the very notion of basically grandstanding and arbitrating over who is and isn't a good man is kind of a shitty power move by its very nature. It's trying to invalidate all the competition, evolutionarily speaking. That's what you're doing when you're when you morally grandstand over people. You're saying, that man is unworthy of the title man. I hereby revoke that man's right to be called a man. Yeah, nobody has the power to do that. Not men, not women, not anyone. Fuck off.
That's person by person.
Mm-hmm.
Case by case. Again, that's a topic for another time. Okay, so let me reread that. It was the decade that gave us Revenge of the Nerds, which, as Noah Brand put it, at the Good Men Project, which I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kind of like a cult.
Or a fucking ministry from 1984. The Ministry of the Good Men.
Yeah. Has so much rape culture you could use it to make rape yogurt. What the?
What
fuck?
in the sweet, merciful heavens is wrong?
I legitimately want to go grab a beer because there is some in our mini fridge, but I'm just gonna grab a root beer. I'll be right back. You take this, dude.
What in Dionysus's merciful freaking wine are we doing? Just what? All I can think of now is Greek yogurt. I hope you're happy. All I can think of now is Greek yogurt. It's a fucking weird ass yogurt figurative language. It's not even what point are you like? Okay, I I use flowery and alliterative and figurative languages and all that sort of things, and I come up with some pretty archaic or overly intellectual insults, like for example, um, "fuck you, you regressively fractalizing singularity of pure condensed failure," or something along those lines. But usually, at least the content of my insult is like it 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 might be of a weird scale or a weird structure, but people understand the scope and the style of what I'm going for when I say things, at least. But like, I'm not sure that an actual like meaningful statement was being conveyed there, because like, okay, we have the notion of like materializing the essence of rape culture into like a physical form. Sure, I often say fuck you with physically condensed concepts and stuff too. But I don't know how you got from solidifying the essence of rape culture to making it into yogurt. And I don't know what alchemical process or what furtherance of the concept is being conveyed by you saying you make it into yogurt. And I don't why yogurt and why would you choose in this instance, why would you choose to make this particular abstract concept into yogurt of all things? And fuck you for making me hungry for Greek yogurt now. Because now I just want to go get some Greek yogurt because you made me think of yogurt and now I'm hungry. Like I've seen some archaic language in my day and I've made quite a lot of it, but like good goddamn, that's just so out of left field. I'm not even sure it's on the planet it's supposed to be on anymore. See, now that made sense. It was also very flowery and alliterative, but it made sense given the context of the structure of the thing. Yours, sir, makes no fucking sense whatsoever ever within the context of the structure of the thing you say. Also, how have you determined that rape culture exists? What mechanism are you using to measure it, and how do you define it? As long as we're off into the weeds, spurging about the mechanics of your metaphor, we might as well also address the point you're actually making, which is how have you determined that the 80s is lousy with rape culture? Why are you determining that? Why does it matter? And how are you defining it? Just basic philosophical questions you should have either asked yourself or at least attempted to answer for your audience before you just assumed this lofty, revealed concept of rape culture exists from out of the fucking not even the ether. like I'm an occultist. I like eat, sleep, and breathe magic and metaphysics for a living, and what you just described is not even not even making sense in magical terms. You have failed so hard that even the most lofty and revealed chaos fucking narrative magic I can think of wouldn't make any sense out of this. You make the Greek muses cry when you make these kind of shitty fucking metaphors. Like the forces of creativity themselves are annoyed with you now.
I'm back.
Huzzah.
So Batsy stuff said some stuff.
Okay.
Gender neutral bat person. Although he spelled it weird, like person.
Mm-hmm.
And sing the words steamy, dreamy, Steve Buscemi, set to the 80s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tune. No.
No.
Mainly because I can't sing.
No, because once again, you have scarred my fucking third eye with your mental images. I'm gonna start charging for the images if you keep doing this.
Alright, so moving on.
Yep.
Alright. It gave us Police Academy, and its non-consensual blowjobs are a fun and lighthearted prank ethos. I've seen Police Academy, but I know it's a comedy film. I've seen like a little bit of it, like the funny scenes, but I don't.
Okay. So with what you've seen of Police Academy, because I actually haven't. I think I tried to watch Police Academy or a couple of them a long ass time ago, but I didn't really enjoy them, so I mostly don't remember them.
I don't know anything about this scene.
Yeah, I'm mostly guessing that like character winds up in an odd situation and ends up getting blown without realizing it, and then wakes up and finds they're being blown and is okay with it because free blowjob. Or the person doing the blowing was hot.
I think it was a parody that Robot Chicken did with X-Men. Like they brought in the Police Academy to replace the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. So I think I know what scene they're talking about. Basically, like I think it's when they graduate from the Police Academy, where one of the guys like puts I believe, prostitute under like the podium where the guy who will give the speech and basically she gives him a blowjob. Well, I think he's trying to give the speech.
Okay, well, it was a prostitute, and I'm assuming by 80s standards, she's a fairly attractive person.
Well, I don't think anyone saw her. Is the thing, like because it's kind of held at the perspective of it's like one of those senior prank things, like before you graduate or something.
Yeah, sure.
Plus, I think no one will ever say, like, no guy will ever say no to a blowjob from a beautiful prostitute.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I mean, prostitute, so it kind of implies that she was paid to do it, and she is a prostitute, so she has no problem doing that stuff.
Yeah. Also, just so we are clear, I am fully aware that, men can get raped too by women of equal standing and shit. But for the context of the joke, I think part of the joke is supposed to be that the guy is enjoying this possibly a little bit too much, and that the enjoyment of it is what's distracting me. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think he's actually like grossed out or put off by this. I think it's just he's actually enjoying it, and that's part of the joke.
Oh my dude, that would be so awkward at like a graduation ceremony, like high school or something. Like like a principal or something's at the podium and is trying to give a speech,
and he's distracted by how much he's enjoying having his regions excited.
Oh my god! Imagine the oath. Like the student body has to say
I don't need this image in my head. I remember the faces of both of my principals that I had in both elementary school and high school, and I don't need any kind of
the funny.
distinction of their.
I remember it is again, like I said, they did a parody with the X-Men and Robot Chicken, and the same joke happened with Professor Xavier.
Well, I mean,
and then the joke is taken further because he's paralyzed from the waist down, so he can't feel it. It's awkward, but you know what Charles says when apparently the prostitute stops? He says, "Don't stop."
well, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that because he's a telepath, he could sense her there and sense her doing it. So, yeah, you get yours, child or Charles, and never make me think of my high school principals in anything resembling that light again, or I will kill you.
You'll try, motherfucker.
I will kill you from the safety of my state way over here using a fucking voodoo doll if I have to. Because that's a disturbing mental image that I never ever want ever again. Ever.
Okay. Fancy stuff. Come on down. The OnlyFans Heating and Air. We're located across the street from Pothead's Pottery, situated beside the Family Jewels jewelry store.
But ching. Well played, sir.
There is probably a place like that, actually.
Probably somewhere in California, if we're being entirely honest.
Really? Because I keep imagining like a Midwestern, like Nevada town.
Yeah, probably somewhere just outside of Vegas you could get it to.
All right. Okay. It was a decade that gave us. I read that. Sorry. And perhaps most disturbingly, it gave us the comedic rape subplot in 16 Candles, John Hughes' much beloved and iconic 1984 teen romance.
Okay, to what are you referring as the rape subplot? Because I don't know what the fuck you mean when you say. Because in my mind, and I think most other people's minds who have ever seen that movie, no rape is occurring anywhere. For the most part. At most, you could say there's ambiguity, but ambiguity doesn't mean a lack of consent. It just means things like body language or situational pressures take precedence over like ongoing enthusiastic consent. And this is the thing that baffles me because feminists want this thing where like you have to give affirmative verbal consent every time you have sex or do anything sexual. So like even while you're in the midst of you know the act, you're supposed to be consciously self-aware enough to ask, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? As you're going, and the other person is supposed to be able to be self-aware enough to go yes, yes, yes without breaking the fucking moment. But body language exists. People body language exists and personal connections and pre-existing relationships exist, and also people who want to just have sex and therefore go to parties to have sex also exist. And again, party guys and party girls like that are not enjoyable. They're not tactful. They're usually brain dead dipshits who got high before they did it, but they do exist. Just because they're insufferable and twits and need to be beaten about the head with a fucking baguette until they learn better manners does not mean they don't exist.
Yep. Um. 16 Candles isn't a college sex romp like Revenge of the Nerds or Animal House. It's a high school love story. It's been celebrated for 34 years for its sweet romantic story, yet it is entirely willing to feature a lengthy, supposedly hilarious subplot in which a drunken, unconscious girl is passed from one boy to another and then raped.
Presumably, before she fell unconscious, she consented to this, or she consented to being in this room full of guys, and then, like, again, party girls and party guys do exist. They're pains in the motherfucking asses, and they are the last people you want to be around you when they are drunk, but they do exist. And they need to be beaten viscerally about the head with a baguette until they learn better manners, but they do exist.
Yeah, I tried going to parties to get laid when I was in high school. Never worked out, and honestly, I legitimately had second thoughts every time I ever thought about it, just because I'm not a sociable person.
Yeah, which is why I didn't go to parties to begin with, because I just I knew all that shit that was going, I knew how out of hand things could get, and I just didn't want any part of it, because fuck you.
Well,
And
I didn't really know anyone like in high school either, so
yeah, there's that other thing. Although in retrospect, I wish I had been a little bit more adventurous, because it might make the fucking guilt and shame and wasted time complex that I have a little bit less bad, which would be not so very bad. Anyway, moving on.
yeah. All right, the drunk girl in question is Caroline, the girlfriend to romantic hero Jake Ryan. And if you know one thing about 16 Candles, it's that Jake Ryan is perfect. He is the impossibly cool, impossibly beautiful senior guy who is dating the impossibly beautiful senior girl.
Okay, well, unfortunately for your standards, my darling, people like that also do exist. They're rare, they're a pain in the ass, and they're kind of insufferable with their perfection. But believe me, I have one-itis over one of them. There was a guy I knew from fucking kindergarten who was, even back then, kind of that, and I still kind of have a flame the size of the Statue of Liberty's torch for him, which he can never know because I would get the fuck beat out of me, assuming he was ever grossed out or anything. But that's a different story for a different day. My point being, the reason why that trope exists is because people roughly along those lines, the people that end up getting, full ride scholarships to schools based on athletics and shit, and are loved by everyone in every town around them, do exist, and they can be a pain in the ass, but they do exist, especially because they're unattainable and perfect, and it makes you want to weep with how beautiful they are, and that's a different story for a different day. Moving on. And then it was quiet. I'm going to be terrible and assume brainstormer left while I was in the middle of that.
I had to dump a plate.
Okay. that was the most comedic time you could have picked to do that, because I was getting off into the weeds of the.
Actually, now I think about it, I don't think there were ever any high school parties in my high school. Huh.
I knew people had them, but I had no interest whatsoever. I was invited to them a couple of times, but it never felt right, and I always, the part of my brain that actually was a brain thought to itself, you know what's gonna happen. They're gonna be fucking idiots. You're gonna hate yourself for going, and then you're gonna hate everyone else for being idiots. And then you're gonna hold it against them because they were drunk at the time, but that doesn't change who they are. It just reveals who they are. And it's gonna make you look like the asshole. So I just avoided this entirely. I didn't even end up going to my proms or my semi-formals or anything, because I just was like, well, I have Facebook, and any significant events that happen at the thing are probably going to be put on Facebook the next day anyway, and everyone's going to be talking about it at school the next day anyway. So it's not like I'm not going to be in on the gossip loop. So whatever. And again, in retrospect, I sort of regret that because
I never went. Sorry.
Hmm?
No, please finish your thing.
I regret not making connections with certain people, especially the aforementioned nigh perfect, unattainable guy I have one-itis over. But apart from that issue of like, if I had been more social earlier, maybe people would have liked me more. But apart from that, yeah, I'm kind of just glad I avoided all that stupid shit.
All right,
I
so
probably wouldn't have survived some of the stupid shit that those guys got up to, from what I've heard.
I feel like a lot of people have. I feel like my generation kind of got tamer. I mean, dumb. They're still dumb, obviously, but not really anything of notice happened.
Well, both of our generations have this thing now where instead of doing the stupid thing and telling everyone else they did the stupid thing after the fact, they record and live stream the stupid thing, and then everyone can see it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a social media challenge vis-a-vis Tide Pods.
Yeah. Okay, so Betsy stuff. You're telling me people have sex in high school and in college? I'm in college and I know that. Is it true, and why and how does something like that occur? I've never been to.
Yeah, most people lose their virginity at like 16. I don't get it either.
Hormones, dude. Hormones. Growing up.
Well, I get what makes people want to have it happen. I just don't know how people can go from I want this to happen to here is a person who I want to have it happen with, and they consent to have it happen with me, therefore.
Times where there were students caught fucking in my high school. I never knew any of them. I think I just heard stuff.
Merciful freaking Hecate. What the hell?
Like in the theater, like they would go into like the kind of theater we had, the auditorium.
Yeah.
And frick in the like aisles.
Yeah, this if it had happened in my high school probably wouldn't have surprised me. But that's still
just people, dude. It's just chopped up to people are horny bastards.
Yeah, but again, it's the issue of going from I am horny to here is someone I can be horny with that I want to be horny with, and then they act like it's not the people are horny and want to have it happen that bugs me. It's the they're actually able to manage it that bugs me.
It's a weird conversation. Moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we are talking about 16 Candles, so this kind of conversation is inevitable that kind of come up at this point.
Yeah. All right. Excuse me. Ugh. And yet, as soon as Jake Ryan hears that gawky, awkward sophomore Samantha has a crush on him, he immediately begins to like her back, defying all the laws of God, man, and high school popularity. Okay, for one thing, high school popularity is bullshit.
Agreed, but the point the author's making does kind of make sense because people do tend to stick to their cliques, and they do tend to like there is this weird unspoken, almost like law of the jungle thing going on, whereby a certain group of people, and the thing that baffles me is it seems to me, again from the outside looking in, that it's actually more restrictive to the people that are popular than it is to the people who are unpopular. And that never made sense to me because as the person who's popular in a given situation, you have the power in the situation. So if you don't like the laws of popularity such as they are, you can change them. People like me who were, sitting alone for 3 out of 5 years in the cafeteria every day, which was a thing that happened, don't have the power to change shit. So if you popular people also find this bullshit restrictive, then stop doing it. Because you have the power to change this shit. That's a rant for a different day. It doesn't make sense to me how popular people are so concerned with keeping their popularity when in actuality if you were incapable of keeping your popularity to begin with, you probably wouldn't have it. The fact that you are popular suggests that you have the capacity to be popular. So if you don't like the laws of popularity in a high school and you are one of the popular people, then change them, you ignorant fucks. Because all you're doing is making everyone miserable if you just go along with the. Never mind.
Yeah. Alright, Jack Ryan is the embodiment of a fantasy so compelling it instantly made 16 Candles iconic. What if the object of all your romantic high school dreams decided to pursue you without you having to expend any effort whatsoever? Just because they could see that you were like deeper and more special than the rest of the school.
My heart would stop, but then I would be able to die happy. Those are the two reactions I would have to that. Number one, my heart would stop because of the anxiety, and number two, I would die happy, and I'd be okay with it.
What if they somehow saw that without you ever having to have a conversation or interact with them in any way? See, I would be suspicious at that.
Yeah, I would as well, but usually, especially in smaller schools, you know these people from the time you're in freaking kindergarten till the time you graduate. So it wouldn't seem so out of left field if it happened to someone you knew well. But I guess in cities, supposedly the fact that you're in a larger school makes it less likely that you know the person. So fine. And I will grant you there's also a difference between knowing of someone, like knowing about them, and knowing them actually, because I can attest to this. Everyone knew who I was in my school because I was the crippled kid and the smart kid, but nobody, barring like my four actual friends that I eventually did end up making in high school, um, actually knew a damn thing about me, and nobody actually bothered to learn anything about me. They just were superficially nice, quote unquote, and thought that was good enough, I guess. Which was a massive pain in my ass because number one, I find pity condescending, and number two, it baffled me that so many people could know about me and would like try to insert themselves into my business for no goddamn reason other than the fact that they knew me. Like they'd stop me in the middle of the hallway just to say hi and stuff, and I'd just be like, "You don't care about me. Like you don't know anything about me as a person. You just know me because I'm." It's hard not to be noticed when you're the crippled kid. But yeah, so I guess in context like that, you can have a person who you know of without actually knowing, but for the most part, in schools that aren't in the middle of freaking New York or somewhere like that, if you know if you know the people, you've known them for however long you've been in school together. New kids are different because they obviously come from somewhere else and you have to get to know them, but for the most part, unless you live in a metropolitan area, you're gonna know the people well enough to at least have heard of them before they come to you like that. Moving on.
Jake stands the test of time, wrote Hank Stuever in the Washington Post in 2004. He quotes a 34-year-old woman who grew up on Jake Ryan. Oh gosh, Jake Ryan, just thinking about it now, I get kind of. It's all just too good to be true. It's a movie, so yeah, it's like an ideal.
Well, that number one, that's the conceit of movie, and number two, yeah, I mean it does sting when you hope for something like that and you end up getting nothing because life is a soul sucking nihilistic shithole. But that's a different story for a different day. Die alone, die alone, die alone, die alone. Okay, moving on.
Dick Ryan's reputation as the ideal dream boy of every teenage girl's deepest fantasies has lasted for decades. Jake.
Believe me, it's not just the girls. Like I said, my school had its own equivalent to Jake Ryan, and I still have one-itis over the dude. So it's not just the girls, darling.
Keep it in your pants.
Where else would he? Never mind.
Jake writes, Stu Ever, is Christ redeeming the evil sins of high school? Jake as the ideal, Jake as the eternal belief in something better. Oh, what the? It's weird.
So you have a problem with optimism, or with any kind of like ideal or idealism. Yeah, not every. Okay, here's the thing. Number one, no, not everyone needs to be cynical and nihilistic and ironic about every fucking thing under the sun. And number two, if people in high school actually bothered to be sincere for more than 5 minutes on any given day, high school wouldn't be as bad as high school is. Like, there's the irony for you. If people got off their asses and actually did believe in things sincerely and without irony, instead of cloaking everything in this veneer of cynical pseudo-maturity and nihilism, high school wouldn't suck as bad. So ironically, if people believed more in the ideal high school and acted as though they did, high school might actually become closer to the ideal rather than the fucking cynical, prepubescent hellhole that high school always is. Because everyone assumes that growing up means growing bitter rather than just maturing. And so everyone is always cynical and fucking cloaking everything in irony. And you can't possibly understand my feelings because my feelings are different than everyone else's who's ever lived, derp. You're basically whining that teenagers in high school aren't entitled enough. How the fuck did you manage that? Considering that high school is basically everything terrible about, like, well-off human civilization. Moving forward.
Yet Jake cold-bloodedly hands a drunk and unconscious Caroline over to another guy and says, "Have fun."
Number one, she's at a party, presumably with people that she knows. Number two, the majority of people there are, the school it kids, the jocks and so forth, like Jake is. And number three, if Jake is this, unattainable standard and Caroline is his girlfriend at the time, you would think that everyone at the party would know her well enough to know what she will and will not tolerate. And also, she got drunk specifically to make having sex easier, so I'm guessing that means she consented. Like, if you're actually going through prep work to make a thing happen, one would assume you're okay with that thing happening. Yes? And also, I'd like to point out to you at the end that she didn't mind who she ended up with. Like, she enjoyed herself and wanted to do it again. So clearly, even post-talk, she didn't have any consent issues. Moving on.
In 1984, you could be a perfect dream boy and also be an accessory to date rape. They were not mutually exclusive ideas. In fact, they each other.
How are you defining those terms? Because I suspect they're not how most people would define those terms. He didn't roofie her. He didn't insist that she drink more and more and more than she wanted to. She chose to get drunk, and she chose to put herself in a sexual situation while she was in the process of getting drunk, therefore implying some degree of consent. And even if you wanted to say something about, like, regretting it afterwards, she didn't regret it afterwards. She enjoyed herself. And she went on to presumably do this kind of behavior again and again and again until the end of high school. Because, as I said previously, party girls and party guys, as insufferable as they may be for those of us with functioning brains, do exist. If you want to shame party girls and party guys that are doing the stupid shit that they do in high school, take it up with them. Don't take it up with the people who just kind of quietly in the background take advantage of what obviously is being offered there. Especially because Jake didn't even take advantage of her. He literally passed her off to somebody else and was just like, I hope, he basically said, I hope she enjoys herself with this guy, but I'm not going to enjoy myself with her at the moment. That's about as good as you can be expected to do in a party atmosphere when you're one of the fucking it guys, I would imagine. That's like above and beyond the call of party etiquette here. Moving on.
Right. Okay. In 16 Candles, Caroline's rape is presented as her fault and as funny. Oh, okay. In 16 Candles, Caroline's rape is presented as her fault and as funny. That's the title of the article.
She enjoyed herself, and she presumably tried to do it again afterwards. At no point in this situation was she not consenting. She was consenting while she was drinking, and she was consenting to put herself in an atmosphere where she was heavily drinking around people she knew would like to have those kind of relationships with her. And she consented afterwards when she realized what happened and was totally fine with it. At no point was there any breach of consent here, unless you want to make the argument that because she was drunk, her consent didn't matter. But if you want to make that argument, my darling, then I must point out that the guy she ends up with at the end of 16 Candles, who I believe was named Glenn? I think Glenn. Regardless, the nerdy guy, the ostensibly nerd in it that for some reason randomly showed up at this party setting. Anyway, he was even more drunk than she was because she remembered vaguely what happened and he didn't. Like he asked her at the end of the movie, did we, and then ... presumably meaning did we fuck or did we bang or did we make the beast with two backs or however you want to put it. And she says, I think so, yeah, and then acts as though, she enjoyed it. So he was even more drunk than she was. So if drunkenness counts as impairment to consent in this case, then are we not going to talk about the fact that by your own logic, then she kind of raped him because she remembered better than he did, meaning that she was less drunk than he was at the time. So do you really want to follow this through with your own logic, or are you just morally grandstanding because, ooh, the woman, derp. And I guess male rape victims can go hang. Because of reasons. Moving on.
In the moral universe of 16 Candles, Jake is allowed to be callous to Caroline without losing his dream boy status because 16 Candles briskly assures us Caroline is not the right kind of girl. She has breasts and she drinks. She's potentially a little bit slutty. She doesn't know shit about love, Jake explains. The only thing she cares about is partying.
Okay. Right there, okay. You just strawmanned the shit out of Jake in this instance. What he said in the quote that you provided essentially is, I want a deeper connection. I want love and affection and emotion. And she's just interested in fast, fun, no strings attached sex. And he doesn't even judge her for it because he sets her up with another guy and, wishes them both luck with his, have fun comment. So he enables her fast, fun, fuck anything that moves sex habit with someone else, mind you, which is something that most guys wouldn't do because some guys are territorial dickheads about this kind of shit, and then goes and pursues someone who he does think will understand the kind of emotional connection that he wants. Again, once again, he went above and beyond the call of duty here, and he still gets vilified for it in your eyes. Mind you, at the end, Caroline doesn't even really think about Jake all that much. She's more interested in having sex with the interesting, ostensibly nerdy guy again, because she enjoyed herself. So, all parties involved enjoyed themselves and moved on from the relationship, but because it's Jake expressing an issue he has with Caroline and why he doesn't think they're right for each other, which again he doesn't judge her for, he just knows he wants something else, but because he's the one making that judgment, because he's the one putting his standards onto her shoulders, somehow that's a wrong thing. But if the situation were flipped, if Jake was the stereotypical alpha beta dude bro from fucking Revenge of the Nerds, and Caroline was the sensitive soul who wanted a deeper connection and more romance in her life, I'm gonna throw my hat into the ring here and say you wouldn't have a single problem with that, would you? Because that's the world working as it should. It's women judging men, and all is right with the world in your eyes. But the man has, desire for deeper emotional connection, and all that shit, and all of a sudden it's how dare he have standards higher than she can fulfill on her own? Or how dare he seek a better relationship that fits his needs better and doesn't even judge her choices or her lifestyle and actually enables it to an extent. So he can be totally fine with everything that she does and just not want to engage in it with her, and he's still the bad guy somehow. The fuck? Moving on.
Yep. Okay. The fact that Jake casually despises his longtime girlfriend doesn't reflect poorly on him because it doesn't affect the fantasy at the heart of 16 Candles.
Because people are never in long-term relationships they're dissatisfied with, or ever have any valid reason to seek an end to such a situation. They're supposed to be perpetually miserable and pretend to be happy all the time, because apparently not doing so would be mean to the woman somehow, even though she's perfectly happy with how things end up anyway. Moving on.
Okay. What 16 Candles is selling is the dream of the unattainable guy falling in love with the every girl. I mean,
or the every guy. It really doesn't have to be gendered here. Trust me.
So for the fantasy to work, Jake must prove his deep and abiding love for Sam. Ignoring and degrading Caroline is an easy shortcut to that goal because in the moral universe of 16 Candles, the more you degrade one girl, the whore, the more you can exalt the virgin.
He didn't call her a whore. He didn't degrade her in any way whatsoever. He enabled her habit by setting her up with another guy who he thought would enjoy her lifestyle more. And then went to pursue, of his own volition, a person who was more fulfilling of his standards, i.e., a deeper, more emotional love connection that he wanted. He didn't call her a whore. He didn't degrade her in any way. He simply realized we are not meant for each other. She is not going to care if I set her up with someone else in this instance. And this other character, Sam, appears to get me better, so I'm going to devote my attention to her. That's all that happens here. He realizes he's not happy in his current relationship, breaks things off in a perfectly amicable way in the context of the movie with this girl he's not happy with, finds a girl he thinks he might be happy with, and pursues her in the hopes that he will eventually be happy at the end. And all parties involved end up happy, because the two lovebirds wind up with their deep, soulful love connection as per, their mutual wants, the fast, fun, no strings attached, sex having popular cheerleader girl winds up giving a nerdy guy who she probably wouldn't otherwise give a chance and likes it, and the nerdy guy gets the hot cheerleader girl at the end. And presumably they'll, live happily ever after and whatnot. At no point was there any judgment passed on Caroline by Jake. All he realized, all he said was, I am unhappy with this relationship. Here, you take her. Maybe you will be happy in a relationship with her. I'm going to pursue that other girl over there because I think she'll get me better and I think we'll click better. And surprise, surprise, that's what happens. Like, again, a guy goes above and beyond the Call of Duty to be as amicable and as nice as he possibly can be and still gets fucking burnt at the stake in effigy over it. Jesus Christ. Moving on.
So Caroline gets drunk at a party and passes out in her boyfriend's room, where presumably she believes she will be safe. Jake, disgusted, comments that I could violate her 10 different ways if I wanted to, but now the pure and virginal charms of Sam are in his sights. I'm just not interested anymore. What the fuck?
Which essentially means that he knows she would consent to him doing basically whatever he wanted to her because he's the hot heartthrob jock guy. But he finds her unappealing, or he doesn't even necessarily even find her unappealing. He just finds that kind of relationship unappealing and finds someone deeper, quote unquote, like Sam, more appealing. So he devotes his efforts to getting the girl who he actually thinks will make him happy, proceeds to set up Caroline so that she will also be happy at the end of this with someone who Jake thinks will probably be happy with the situation at the end. And then, again, all parties essentially end up happy and no consent is violated. And honestly, given that this all happens in the space of like a raging high school party, he kind of went above and beyond the social etiquette of the situation. Because most guys are not that thoughtful, but Jake is, and that's exactly why he doesn't like the freewheeling, no strings attached approach that Caroline has. But he doesn't judge her for it. He enables her have it, and then proceeds to go off and do his own thing. Joy. Moving on.
Yeah, okay. Instead, he passes it over to Ted, who is listed.
Oh, it's Ted. Okay, I thought it was Glenn, but it's Ted. That's the geekier guy.
Who is listed in the credits only as the geek, reasoning, she's so bliss she won't know the difference. The poor geek has had no luck with girls, so Jake illustrates his generous magnanimity. Yeah, by installing the geek in his own fancy car with his own fancy unconscious girlfriend next to him and says, have fun.
Okay, so he sees someone who is suffering from a lack of intimacy and affection. He sees someone who requires a more freewheeling, no strings attached approach to having these kind of relationships, and who wants to have these kind of relationships, but that he doesn't. He thinks this will at least be a nice stopgap to this kid who never gets a break, and it will make Caroline less mad at me when she wakes up and realizes I'm not there. So, what are we supposed to be taking issue with here? Caroline was already drunk and already unconscious, so presumably she wouldn't have minded if she had been passed around from guy to guy, because that's probably part of the reason she got drunk in the first place. Because again, party girls, especially among the really, really popular girls, do exist. They're stupid and they're vapid, but they exist.
Yeah, you know what we call those where I'm from?
Please. Tell me.
Down dirty hoe.
I don't know. I don't think it's just the desire to have a lot of sex that makes someone a hoe. I think you have to be a little bit sleazy about it. Like women who are hoes, in my opinion, are women who want promiscuity and want no strings attached sex, but if they see someone else doing it, they judge them for it and call like in my opinion, the women that are hoes are usually the women calling other women hoes for doing the exact same shit that they do.
Hmm.
Um,
I
or
know.
or if um or or a person who uses sex to become more popular or more well liked. Like if they use sex as a weapon to become more powerful on the social food chain, that's a hoe. That's a whore, in my opinion, anyway.
That's fair enough point.
Because some people just like having sex, and they don't judge anyone for it. They don't backstab and play the high school version of Game of Thrones over it. They just enjoy intimate relationships with various people, and they're generally kind of nice about it. Those people I wouldn't call hoes or whores or anything.
Okay,
They're
fair.
just,
Moving on.
Yep.
In the car, Caroline regains consciousness long enough to ask who the geek is, and Jake assures her that the geek is, in fact, him. A casual manipulation that Caroline is too drunk to register as false.
Okay, well that might just be her being stupid then. I'm not even sure you can blame the booze on that. Because there's a difference between drunk and fucking hallucinating.
I
If
don't
she
know.
could be that easily convinced that she was hallucinating just from the fact that she was drunk, she probably wasn't a very bright bulb in the socket to begin with.
Yeah. It drives off to the
And I
night.
would say that about a male character who that happened to as well, so don't fucking accuse me of fucking misogyny or anything.
Bear drives off into the night, and Caroline climbs into the geek's lap and purrs, "I love you," disoriented and out of it. Geek looks straight into the camera lens and grins. This is getting good. It's kind of funny. Again, I don't know much. I'm not a big rom-com guy, so
Yeah, the general conceit of the joke there, of course, is the guys who don't get any physical intimacy or affection are generally likely to be more appreciative of it when it does show up. Whereas somebody like Jake, who is at the top of the food chain and can have basically anyone who they want, probably doesn't care as much about each individual action because when things come easy and mean very little, they mean very little. But when things are an unattainable dream and then you get a taste of them, you're likely to be more appreciative of them. It's basically a guy who starved for intimacy or starved for affection being like, "Oh, finally something I can enjoy." But you didn't think about the emotional landscape of the male character, did you, darling? Because the woman's moral perspective is all that matters, I guess. Guys who are lonely can just go die in a hole and stop being creepy, but girls who are lonely, they deserve fucking romantic comedy subplots to revolve around them like a motherfucker every single motherfucking time.
we
Yep.
get a double standards are a thing. It's bullshit. Yada yada.
Yep.
Sorry, just stuff we've said so many times before.
I know, but it's because this person is obliviously babbling the same shit over and over like they usually do when they just enjoy hearing themselves talk and think that they're so very smart because they can throw jargon at a problem rather than actually having an actual point.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Next time we see Caroline, she's unconscious again, and the geek is having her friends photograph him next to her unresponsive body. Ted, you're a legend. They gush. You know what's weird is in the movie, I don't think it's obviously not as bad, but the way this writer has it written, it makes it sound worse than it is.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a lot of reframing and strawmanning going on here. Like, it's reinterpreting something that would be neutral to innocuous and framing it in like the harshest possible terms and the strictest possible terms.
Um,
I don't think it's being done on purpose. I think this person is just generally an idiot and they can't see beyond their ideology for 0.2 seconds.
yeah.
And they don't understand human nature enough to understand how like the subtleties of social interactions work. And for the record, outside of my geeky niches and things and the kinds of people that I hang out with, I am socially basically retarded. I do not get social cues at fucking all in normal situations. And even I can interpret more of this because I actually understand human psychology a little bit better than this fuck does.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Yep.
All right. The next morning, a nearly sober Caroline and Geek conclude that they had sex the night before. The Geek asks Caroline if she enjoyed herself. You know, I have this weird feeling I did, Caroline says.
Okay, right there should be the end of your point. Because not only does she say she enjoyed herself or assume she enjoyed herself, therefore retroactively consenting, at least, but he goes out of his way to ask if she enjoyed herself, which means that he cares about her consent, which means no rape took place. Because the thing that makes rape bad is the idea that you don't care about the person's mental space or their perspective or their consent or however you want to phrase it. But he went out of his way to ask if she enjoyed herself, and she confirmed, at least as far as she is aware, that she enjoyed herself. So clearly no rape or rape adjacent activity took place, and you are fucking moralistically grandstanding over nothing. You idiot. Moving on.
Yep. All right. She had to have a feeling about it rather than a thought, wrote Molly Ringwald in the New Yorker last year, or the year before, whenever this was published.
Yes, because drinking tends to wipe out people's memories.
Yeah.
But he was actually drunker than she was. So how are you going to make this work? Oh, wait, I forgot. When the man experiences something, we don't care, but when the woman experiences something, moral outrage.
So, let me finish the whole thing.
Yeah.
In a long, empathetic re-examination of her work with John Hughes, because thoughts are things we have when we are conscious, and she wasn't. Well, there's a. I mean, have you ever heard of blackout drunk?
Yeah, and again, party people exist. If you got rid of every single person who had sex when they were drunk, or every single person who was the result of someone having sex when they were drunk, you would basically cut the population of the planet in half. And it wouldn't even mostly be the first world half. It would be like the world would be majority Muslim if we got rid of all the people who were conceived when someone was drunk. Like, let's be entirely honest about this.
Fair enough.
Moving on.
Mm-hmm. The camera lingers on the mismatched pair, beautiful cheerleader and the geek, who we all know never ever would have had sex if the cheerleader had anything to say about it in her right mind.
You mean she would have been snobby and never given him a chance, and therefore would have missed out on what she conceded was a fairly enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that does happen. You know, the nerd and cheerleader or the hot girl, whatever, do get together, and that does happen a lot in fiction.
Yeah. It is a harder relationship to make work, just like the gay equivalent of it is also very, very popular in romance fiction. And believe me, I know it is my niche in these terms. Every gay romance story I've ever read is basically hot jock and nerd get together at the end. But they do happen, and given that her reasoning for turning him down probably would have had to do more with her snobbishness than his inability to actually manage it. If we're really reading so much into 16 Candles, if we're really opening this Pandora's box, then let's just open it up all the way. 16 Candles is basically an admission that women should have less fucking hypergamous standards and give motherfuckers a break every now and again. So, in other words, maybe Caroline should stop being such a vapid bitch and give people a try. Given that she actually enjoyed herself more with Ted than she has with presumably a bunch of other guys she's screwed around with. But I suspect that just by saying that, I'm getting pitchforks and torches picketing my house pretty soon. You implied there's a character flaw with a female character who and there wasn't one with a male character. How dare you, derp? Yeah, fuck off. Women are people too, which means women can make mistakes too. And that means that in the context of these kind of stories where vapid, ignorant people get their comeuppance, sometimes the vapid, ignorant people who get their comeuppance are going to be women. Because women are people too. Moving on.
Anne waits for us to laugh. The joke is that they had sex despite the fact that the cheerleader didn't want to. It's funny. Now, socially, technically, she didn't want to. Social.
Yeah. And once again, she consented to get drunk in a room full of guys, probably knowing that she would be passed around and there would be some orgy action going on. And she claimed to have, at least to the best of her knowledge, enjoyed it afterwards. And she proceeded to pursue him again afterwards. So, at all of the points that we, as the audience, are privy to, she consented. She consented to go to this party, presumably to specifically have sex. She got drunk, presumably to make having sex easier on herself. She enjoyed her liaison with the geek character, as she herself said when he asked, meaning that he specifically cared about her enjoyment, and therefore was not indifferent to her reaction. And she tried to have it happen again, which presumably means that she enjoyed it well enough to want it to occur a second time. You ignorant twit. The only thing, presumably, in this case, and I'm not saying in every case, I'm not saying in all the cases, I'm saying in this specific case, with these specific characters, it seems like Caroline was being a vapid stuck-up bitch, and circumstances allowed her to get outside of her fucking comfort zone and broaden her horizons a little bit, and it turns out that she enjoyed it. And also, pointing this out again, it's not like he forced himself on her, because he was more drunk than she was, because he was blackout drunk the next day, and she at least had an inkling that something positive happened. So fuck you. If alcohol is this mythical substance that removes people's ability to think for themselves, then you need to apply that standard equally to both genders. If it isn't, if male characters can make decisions perfectly well while they're drunk, and female characters can't because the woman is more pure, therefore more susceptible to corruption or some shit, then you are an idiot. And you need to get out of this moral caste system of yours where women can do no wrong unless they're corrupted, and men can do nothing right even when they go above and beyond the call of duty. Fuck you. Moving on.
The geek's culpability here is money. He is ostensibly relieved of responsibility for the encounter because Caroline is the one who came onto him. Although he was sober enough to recognize that she wouldn't do so if she weren't drunk. That was more for social than anything.
Yeah. It's her snobbishness and the structures of vapid high school popularity hierarchies that kept her from seeing any worth in this guy. And he asked her afterward if she enjoyed it, and she came on to him a second time, which means that she enjoyed it enough to want to have the occurrence happen again. So, in short, because Caroline consented to him, because she actually appeared to have enjoyed herself, you actually want to invalidate her perspective now. You're saying that she wouldn't have consented if she were dead sober, therefore implying that any decision that she made while she was even remotely drunk is invalid. Which, honestly, if we were playing by social justice rules, would make you a misogynist, because you just undermined the lived experience of a woman. Frankly, or fortunately for me, I don't believe in that whole standpoint theory, lived experience gobbledygook, so I can write that off. But you can't. You should actually be chastising yourself now for erasing the perspective of a female character, but you're not going to, because man bad, woman weak, and woman pure, man corrupt. That's the only way your moral caste system ever works. The man must be in the wrong because he's the man, and the woman must never be in the wrong because women would never possibly be in the wrong ever. Derp. Yeah, grow the fuck up and realize that all humans are kind of fucking terrible, and also kind of fucking awesome, depending on the situation they're in and the way that they're structured. Humans have great potential to do good things and bad things. It's kind of what makes us human. Whether we do good things or bad things is kind of up in the air and kind of up to us and or circumstances, but everyone has flaws and everyone has virtues. Please grow the fuck out of this binary of yours where one side can do no wrong and the other side can do nothing right, no matter what they do. Jesus Christ. Moving on.
And like Carolina, he was drunk enough to black out the next morning, throwing his own ability to consent into question. Although he was sober enough to drive, and unlike Caroline, he wasn't fading in and out of consciousness all night.
I guess because people never drive drunk or ever have moments of unconsciousness behind the wheel or anything. And again, no, those people do exist. I've seen many drunk people people drifting in and out of consciousness while they're driving drunk is not uncommon. It's kind of one of the things that makes drunk driving so fucking scary.
Yeah.
But thank you for at least acknowledging that he, by your standards, shouldn't be able to consent either. But I'm guessing you're gonna hand wave it away because we can't ever apply our standards in a way that would make the woman seem like she's in the wrong ever. I'm just guessing. I could be wrong, but I'm suspecting that's exactly where you're about to go. Moving on. Unless he left again. Brainstormer. Let's see. What can I sing to fill the void? You are 16 going on 17, baby. It's time to think. Better beware, be canny and carefree. Baby, you're on the brink. You are 16 going on 17, fellows will fall in line. Eager young lads and roues and cats will offer you food and wine. You are 16 going on 17. And you don't know what to do. You are 16 going on 17. take care of you. And I'm going to wait a second for him to come back, because usually I get through about one song and he is back on. There we go.
Yeah, I was getting bacon. That is like the whitest thing I've ever said.
Everything is better with bacon. I don't care what ethnicity you are. If you have a problem with bacon, I worry for your sanity. Unless you are a principled vegan or vegetarian or whatever, that's or you're allergic to pig fat or something. That's understandable. But if you are a omnivorous person, a willfully omnivorous person, and you have a problem with bacon with no health restrictions or anything, I worry for your sanity.
Our religion's where you can't eat pork, which I find crazy.
What'd you say?
There are religions where you can't eat pork, and I find that just crazy.
Yes. Certain restrictions in Judaism and, of course, in Islam. And I'm sorry, but if my religion tells me I can't eat one of my favorite foods, that religion is fucked. As far as I'm concerned, nope. I don't care. I don't care how true it is. I will gladly burn for the enjoyment of this thing, because fuck you.
Yeah. Okay. Moving back to what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Okay. This style of rape culture was perpetuated in the 80s and still is today.
We've been over every instance you've pointed out in the movie, and no breach of consent, and therefore no rape has taken place. So fuck you.
Well, whether or not the geek is directly responsible for committing date rape, the fact remains that Caroline had sex she didn't consent to.
So did he, by your standards, then.
Yeah.
Neither of them, by your standards, had the power to consent, but both of them were in favorable situations both before and after their drunkenness, which imply that they would have consented, because they consented to the drinking, specifically to make this kind of hookup culture easier. So, presumably, if I do a thing to make a thing easier, that means that I want it. And if I enjoyed myself afterwards, then we can logically assume that unless there was some horrifying amnesiac episode in between there, that both parties enjoyed themselves. Whether they could consent verbally or not does not matter. The situations and body language involved imply that they did consent and were consenting, and consented post hoc as well, so your hypothesis is fucked. And I find it a little alarming that your summation of the issue is your summation of the issue in the male case, or in the geek's case, is he possibly committed date rape, but your summation of the female's perspective is she had sex she didn't consent to. Never mind that she might also be guilty of date rape. But that would imply your standard being universal. And as we've demonstrated again and again throughout this article, you have a blind spot where male victims and female perpetrators are concerned. You cannot see a situation where both parties are equally culpable, or where the victim perpetrator complex might be inverted from its quote unquote usual place. You have to see women as forever the people we care about in terms of their perspective, and you have to see men as forever the potential perpetrators we don't care about, no matter what happened, because fuck you.
Right.
I guess.
All right, and the movie expects its audience to respond to that development with righteous glee. Jake, perfect, dreamy, too good to be true Jake Ryan, orchestrated the situation while in perfect control of his faculties. The movie expects that fact to make him only dreamier, because
He orchestrated it on the behalf of Caroline and Ted, because he thought that they both would enjoy it, and he personally was not enjoying it, so he attempted to amicably end the relationship in a way where both parties would end up happy at the end. So Caroline could have her no strings attached freewheeling sex party thing. Ted could get some physical intimacy under his belt and presumably be very, very grateful for having it finally happen. He could go off with the deep artistic girl and have his soulful love connection that he apparently wants, and she gets the ostensibly hot, unattainable jock character, despite being a little bit of an outcast. So all parties are happy. It might actually even be good for Caroline and Ted, because Ted can now realize he can get attractive women, and Caroline might realize she doesn't mind having a deeper relationship maybe at the end. And Jake and Sam get a similar thing whereby they both get the deeper connection they're looking for or were missing, and everyone parts their separate ways, and no one needs to feel aggrieved at all.
Okay. Movie expects that fact to make him only dreamier, because every time Jake degrades Caroline, he proves more firmly that he considers Sam to be special and above.
He doesn't degrade her. He doesn't at all degrade her. He describes her, but what he happens to be describing is non-flattering. And he's not the kind of person who's going to lie to her or himself to try and make her out to be something that she's not. He knows her well enough to know who and what she is, and he doesn't judge her for it, because if he judged her for it, he would call her terrible things like slut and whore and whatnot. Or he, at the very least, wouldn't go out of his way to allow her to continue in this lifestyle that he apparently, according to your mind, disapproves of. If he disapproved of it so aggressively and with such the prude that you're making him out to be, he wouldn't have gone out of his way to set her up with somebody who he thought that she would enjoy and who he thought would enjoy her. He was trying to be kind to both Caroline and Ted in this situation, while simultaneously obtaining his own desires and his own wants. And given that this all happened in a 80s fucking party atmosphere in high school, that's far more above and beyond the call of duty than you would think. Like, normally in these kind of situations, we don't even focus that much on the party because the party is so uncomfortable. But Jake managed to maintain his whole white knight status in the midst of a fucking orgy, basically. Jesus Christ. He broke up with someone and still made sure she was happy at the end of it. That is some grade A man material right there. Yeah, moving on.
Here are the basic ideas embedded in this plot. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Girls who drink are asking for it. Girls who have sex are asking for it. Girls who go to parties are asking for it. They are asking for it even if they only drink and have sex and party with their monogamous boyfriends. Whatever to that kind of girl as a result is funny. You are fucked in the head, legitimately.
Okay, no one is saying that every girl who goes to a party or every girl that gets drunk is asking for it. However, the kinds of women or men who would ask for it, or who are in the process of asking for it, who are soliciting, if you want to use a kind of old-fashioned term, who are attempting to make themselves available, who are attempting to be a little bit of a banger, or a little bit easier, i.e., girls who want dick / pussy, or guys who want dick / pussy, when they go through the process of obtaining these things, they are likely to be the same types of people who get drunk. Not saying that drunkenness therefore implies that they are these kind of people, but being these kind of people is likely to lead them to being drunk. You see how it's not the same thing? It's kind of like how all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. That sort of canard. All Not all people who get drunk are necessarily the freewheeling, no strings attached, sex having kind, but most of the people who are the no strings attached, sex having kind are likely to be party animals and get drunk. Because that's the kind of person that does that sort of thing, generally. Doesn't mean that every time someone gets drunk or every time someone parties, they want that. But if someone does want that, then alcohol and parties are an easy mechanism to obtain the thing they want. Now, you can take an issue with the fact that there are some people like that. You can say those bastards are vapid and they deserve to be beaten about the head with a baguette until they learn better. Which I don't know why I got stuck on that metaphor, but I like the image of like beating them over the head with a baguette like it's a club until they fucking think. I don't know why I picked that one randomly. I think because of the random ass food metaphor from earlier with the yogurt thing. Just got me thinking of random food stuff. But yeah, you can judge those kinds of people and say that they're not making good choices if you like, but by your own standards, then you are judging the perspectives and the lived experiences and the desires of men and women who engage in that sort of behavior, which I am fine doing because I don't think it's a very constructive way to engage in relationships. I would prefer if everyone tried for the deeper emotional connection with everyone. But being that as it may, by your standards, judging a woman's desires or perspective makes you a misogynist. So welcome to being a misogynist by your own standards. Funny how that works, isn't it? If you apply your own standards to yourself, you might not like what you see in the mirror, now would you? Moving on.
Yeah, okay. Boys are what? Hold on, let me. Boys are owed girls. A good guy will help his nerdy bro to get a girl. Her consent is not necessary or desired.
What in the name of 1,000 fractalizing black holes are you talking about, woman? Or person? Who the fuck wrote this article again?
Oh, sorry. Okay. A Constance Grady.
Okay, so it is a woman then. Yeah. What in the name of all things holy are you talking about, woman? No one is saying guys are owed anything. In fact, most of the movie is about him trying to court Sam and bring her out of her shell, which implies that he considers her desire of him to be important. And the fact that Jake has empathy for another guy and tries to do a nice thing for someone who he's not like explicitly socially connected to is somehow an issue. And yeah, again, no one is saying that Caroline's consent doesn't matter. What is the first thing Ted asks her when she wakes up? Did you enjoy it too? Did we do this? And if so, did you enjoy it? Is what he asked her. Meaning that, regardless of however much he might have been impishly enjoying himself the night before, he did care about her consent. And that does make sense with everything we know about human psychology. Because the thing about human psychology is what we react to, usually in sexual terms, is someone else's theory of mind. We like the notion, as the social animals that we are, of a person or thing that we find desirable, finding us desirable in return. There's a reason why they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. Because one of the easiest ways you can be intimate with a person without, it being overly intimate or being creepy is looking someone in the eyes. You can tell a lot about a person from what's going on with their eyes, what they're doing with their eyes. How is their facial expression affecting what their eyes are doing? Where's their attention going? You can tell that by what they're doing with their eyes, and shit like that too. I sort of forget what point I was responding to there, but point being, the desire of a person in any situation is what um neurotypical human beings react to. Unless you happen to be a psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, or other cluster P personality, or other, unless you basically have either brain damage or personality damage, what you care about in sexual terms is mutual desire, mutual gratification. You want to be loved by someone who loves you back, and vice versa. That's that's what turns people on. That's why romance novels exist. It's not. It's what makes romance novels different from porn. Basically, porn is very much about the sexual act, but even they usually throw in at least a romance, setup or subplot or premise to make things make sense. But romance novels, usually the sex acts in romance novels are kind of tertiary. What people are reacting to is a description of one character experiencing mutualistic desire with another character. Because that mutual desire, that connection, that thing we call love, that thing human beings call love, is one of the things that makes life worth living for neurofunctional human beings. And if you can't see that, it strongly suggests to me, madam, that maybe you have some issues understanding human psychology and understanding what human nature is actually like. And if you have those issues understanding what human nature is actually like, maybe you shouldn't proclaim on high that you're the smartest person in the room and understand what media is saying and what human beings think on any given moment of any given day. Which is a long-winded way of saying you're fighting above your weight class and above your station. Please shut the fuck up until you know what you're actually talking about, please. Moving on.
To avoid being the kind of girl who gets raped, you need to earn male approval. If you earn male approval, other girls might be raped, but you won't be, and then will prove that you are special.
From what orifice are you pulling this, darling? Because it seems like it might be a ras.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Again, as far as basically every viewer of 16 Candles from the 80s to now has ever been aware, no rape occurred in this movie. And if you could make a genuine case that rape did occur in this movie, people would stop. Whoever you convinced that rape occurred in this movie would stop enjoying this movie. You want to know why? Because human beings have a natural tendency for desiring mutual desire. Therefore, we find it extremely off-putting if you imply that someone was intimate with someone else and there wasn't that mutual desire going on, because it's that mutual desire that makes human psychology work in terms of sex. It's very, very hard to lust after someone and not imagine them consenting to you. I mean, speaking entirely for myself here, every time I fantasize about the the sexual fantasies with someone, I imagine them desiring me and wanting me to be happy. That's what usually gets my motor running. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but my understanding of human psychology suggests otherwise. What people like is the mutual desire of other people or whoever else they find attractive. And if you imply that that is gone, which is what rape means, it means there was no consent, or the desire wasn't mutual, it was one directional, or not even that. You will immediately get people being nauseous and disgusted by it, because people find the notion of violating someone when they're at their most intimate to be so off-putting that the only crime that human beings generally consider to be worse than rape is murder. And sometimes it's even the other way around. Some people will genuinely espouse the fact that rape is worse than murder. So what the fuck are you playing at? Every human civilization on the planet cannot rape without making excuses for it. And that implies that they understand that rape is bad. So I don't know where you're getting this idea that in any normal high school setting, people just think rape is okay. Even rapists have to convince themselves they're not raping. That's why they're fucked in the head. Because their brains are broken and they don't understand how human consent works and they don't understand how the mutual theory of mind works. The part of their brain that gauges that desire doesn't function properly. That's what makes them rapists. Rapists are basically brain damaged. Are you implying that every man on the planet or every person who's seen 16 Candles is that level of brain damage? Constance. Because if you're implying that, then fuck you. Human beings are social animals, and being social animals implies we care about social interactions. Deal with it. Moving on.
Yep. Oh, by the way, there's a comment in the private chat.
I can't see it because the screen froze.
Oh.
I know it. I probably went on too long. But it never seems to sink in with these people unless you say it like 3 times. So
All right. Once you earn male approval, it can be taken away as Caroline's goes away once Jake tires of her, and then you'll go from being the kind of girl who doesn't get raped to the kind of girl who does.
she wasn't. She consented both pre-Hawk and post-Hawk, and probably at least for a considerable degree during. And she still can garner as much male approval as she likes. She's still the popular cheerleader. She still has Ted and all his friends drooling over her. She still, still can basically have anyone she wants. At no point in this exchange does her social street cred go down in any way. If anything, this just means that Ted's social street cred is probably about to go up, because if they wind up in a committed relationship, she's going to be able to brag to her friends about how he's actually not that bad a guy and how you should give him a chance. And then people will, or some of them will, and then his reputation will improve, because that's how these sorts of situations work.
Okay. Moving on.
Yep.
Okay. A good guy can participate in this whole system and remain an unsullied dream guy.
Okay, that's because the system that you're describing doesn't exist within the context of the movie, as we just went over several times over.
The kind of girl who gets raped has no right to complain about what happens to her. Also, it isn't rape.
Because what you were conflating with because what you're conflating with rape is not what is definable as rape under most people's definitions. You're playing silly buggers with the definitions. That's the thing. You're changing the definition and wanting to keep the words indignation the same. But you can't do that. If you change the context of a word, then whatever people's reaction to that word is going to be derived from that context. If you want to keep the reaction to a word the same, you have to keep the context the same. What people are trying to convey to you is you are broadening the definition of this word too much. Because you see, rape, unfortunately, is a very important thing in human civilization. Why? Because it is one of the cardinal evils of human civilization. It is it is one of the few things that anyone can agree is bad. They might have different definitions of it, but if you can convince someone that that thing has occurred, you're as good as condemning whoever did that thing to death by lynch mob or death by institutional incarceration, whichever happens first. So you can't just play silly buggers with the definition and expect people to have the same reaction. If you use a word as charged as that to describe something innocuous, people are going to look at you funny and be like, what the fuck are you on about? Because incidentally, we're all wondering what the fuck you're actually on about and why you expect us to react to social cues that you didn't get in the same way we react to violent antisocial crimes. That's not going to happen because most people have a sense of perspective and a sense of fucking common sense and empathy. In short, your definitions are insufficient to the task, and you need to understand that most people don't operate on your definitions. Which means you need to go back to the drawing board and restructure your definitions until you have a worldview that makes the least fucking sense. Or you can deal with the fact that people don't understand you and will look at you like you've lost your fucking mind because you kind of have.
Dumb.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah. That's how the mainstream media culture presents rape and thus affirmed rape culture in 1984. On many levels, it's not far off from how large parts of our culture think about rape today, but we bury those values now. In 2018, we no longer enshrine these values in stories of unambiguous rape that are embedded into beloved romantic classics. We offer alternative narratives and are capable of having conversations about date rape.
Okay, you used the word unambiguous there, and now I'm worried that you don't understand what that word means. This is the fundamental problem with your entire thesis here. Everything you're defining as rape is at least ambiguously so. And we just, we've been on this for like 2 hours, and we just finished explaining to you how in most people's reaction to this, they're going to err on the other side of the issue. They're going to err on no violation took place rather than a violation took place and we're just ignoring it. And that's your issue. You err on the side of if there's ambiguity, it implies that the thing happened. Whereas most people err on the side of there is ambiguity, therefore the thing didn't happen. It's kind of like the informal social equivalent of innocent until proven guilty. Because the thing you're alleging is such a heinous crime, there have to be higher standards for it. Because the more severe the crime, and presumably the more severe the punishment, the higher the standards have to be. Otherwise, you live in a world of badness where anyone can be shot through the head or lynched for no reason other than vague suspicion. And vague suspicion is not enough to ruin someone's life or livelihood or even take someone's life, depending on how people react to that particular crime. And given how many lynchings were actually about rape accusations, not about race or gender or sexual orientation, that's kind of important because you allege that thing happened, that R word that I've said far too many times in this live stream, so I'm going to try and avoid it. Yeah. In regards to what Brainstormer said, yeah. But fuck, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, if you allege that thing happened, you're as good as killing someone if enough people believe you without cause, because that is a very terrible thing, and people are going to react to it as though it's a very terrible thing. Moving on.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow of thought. I just
No, it's fine. I get it. This person genuinely ate up like the majority of 2 different live streams.
Yeah.
That very rarely happens. Fuck.
Bat City Stuff said, I don't stop, never give up, hold your head high and reach the top. Let the world see what you have got and bring it all back to you.
I feel like that's quoting a song or something that I'm unfamiliar with.
I don't know what song it is. And also, I went to church camp and there was a Christian rap battle contest. but the flyer on the wall was misspelled and it said rape battle.
That, especially given how puritanical a lot of those kind of fundamentalist Christians tend to be, that's extra funny.
I went to a Catholic camp. Well, no, not a Catholic camp. Like a Catholic field trip or something.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't bad. We just mostly played at a playground. This was like a decade ago when I was like in my, I was like 8 or 9 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest, I don't remember anything from Sunday school.
I remember some things, but most of it I now realize was very much cherry picking
Yeah.
and avoiding. Honestly, the things I learned about the Bible when I studied it kind of on my own were more interesting than the things we covered in Sunday school.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like if people read the Bible unfettered, it'd be a lot easier to keep people as Christians.
Yeah.
Rather than just the sanitized Sunday school version.
So quick note, because I messaged Dalton this. Because of how long this thing has been going on with this article,
Yeah.
we'll skip the other articles we had planned and maybe do the next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
And just kind of move on to the fun part that we've been doing for the last 3 weeks.
Smash or pass.
Yep.
And on that note, I need to plug in my phone because my battery just gave me the little 10-minute ding.
Okay. In the 1980s, though, yeah. So we're gonna finish this article and then we're gonna move to Smash Pass.
Mm.
All right. Okay. In the 1980s, though, alternative narratives were few and far between. They were mostly offered only by feminism, and in the 1980s, mainstream culture considered feminism shrill and unfashionable. Motherfucker, that's today.
Yeah. And by the way, no, it didn't. The second wave was all but embraced by the powers that be for the most part.
What was second wave again?
Second wave was workplace rights and the sexual revolution. Basically, women should be free to make their own like sexual choices, and also if there's any discrimination between men and women in the workplace, it should stop. Which, to be fair, there was honestly no substantive evidence there was a discrimination-based wage gap to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. That doesn't mean that people went to see movies like 16 Candles and immediately thought, "Wow, that looks like fun. I better go get a bunch of girls drunk and have sex with them without their consent." At least
Again,
at least she says that doesn't mean that
yeah, okay, but that's still that's kind of like a backhanded, snide little it's kind of a backhanded compliment, especially because she goes on to describe the same gobbledygook over again. Again, Constance, my dear, no breach of consent can be satisfactorily demonstrated to have taken place within the context of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did somehow manage to convince people that such a thing did occur, it would drastically limit their enjoyment of the movie, because we as human beings, at least, the neurally functional ones, not saying neurotypical, because neuroatypical people for the most part understand this too, because that's not affected by the various neuroatypicalities. But yeah, neurofunctional human beings, people who don't suffer personality damage or brain damage or trauma at an early age, understand that rape is bad because it is a breach of the mutual theory of mind desire that happens in a stable relationship. Because usually human beings, when they go courting, when they engage in the ancient tradition of mate selection and so forth, or even just select for sexual partners, when this happens, what they're looking for is someone who they desire by whatever standards they define, to also desire them in a similar fashion in return. It's mutual desire that gets our species motor running because we are social animals. So if you could convince someone that 16 Candles actually was rape culture, if you like, the sales of 16 Candles would go down so fast that I'm pretty sure the original film, like the actual reels of film, might be burnt if you actually manage to convince people this was rape culture. Fortunately, this isn't in any way meaningfully rape culture. It's you playing silly buggers with definitions and everyone else in the room going, huh? What the fuck does that mean and how the fuck does that make sense? Yeah, moving on.
16 Candles is not single-handedly responsible for the rape culture of 1980s, but like all popular culture, it does both reflect and help to shape the social context in which it exists. No.
Yeah, no. Just no. No to all of that. Your assumption that rape culture exists is woefully misapprehended based on the examples you've given here. Your assumption that people are somehow in some way tabula rasa and their exposure to media somehow shapes their perspective on things rather than being a reflection and output of it is just stupid. And just no to your absolute certainty that all this gobbledygook is correct, even though it can be demonstrated to be wrong in about the space of 2 seconds. Just no. Fuck off.
Yep. Okay. Dominant cultural narrative at the time of Brett Kavanaugh's high school experience was the one offered by 16 Candles, and it taught any girl who went to a party and got assaulted by an acquaintance that whatever happened to her was surely her fault, that it proved she was the wrong kind of girl, and that it was funny, that she had nothing whatsoever to complain about, and that it was absolutely wasn't rape.
Okay, all of that, just all of that, was projection, strawmanning, and misapprehension from your own perspective. And also, I want to point out the fact that you opened that sentence with saying the high school experience Brett Kavanaugh's high school experience ... That is you trying to define Brett Kavanaugh's lived experience. So by your own rules, you can go fuck yourself. Because apparently, we're never supposed to try to second guess or interpret other people's lived experiences. We're just supposed to listen and believe. And we're definitely not supposed to presuppose or project our own opinions of someone else's lived experience onto shit. So, again, I don't believe in that lived experience bullshit. I personally think that subjectivity has gone way too far in our civilization, and we need to fucking kill it with a fucking rune sword from Lord of the Rings, like it's a fucking Balrog. But by your own standards, you just attempted to undermine and presuppose someone else's lived experience, and therefore you can go fuck yourself. Moving on.
Yep. Under those circumstances, the mystery is not why any person would continue to go to 10 parties over a 2-year period when women were routinely gang raped and not reported, as Senator Graham argued. The mystery is why anyone ever came forward with their story at all. What the fuck are you on? That is so.
No, darling, the mystery is how you can look at human beings interacting in a way that human beings have interacted for thousands of years and has been a very adaptive strategy for interactions, and somehow convince yourself that at any point in the situation, rape is anything or is viewed as anything other than the heinous crime that it always has been, and how you can play silly buggers with the definition so easily. What what dystopia are you living in, dear? Most people understand that rape is bad and therefore would react to it horribly if they thought someone who they even remotely cared about was the victim of such a thing. But what they don't do is they don't consider nonverbal communications like body language and social cues to be that thing. Because if they did, every fucking human being on the planet would probably be lynched at some point. And no thank you. That sounds like a moralistic dystopia of epic proportions.
All
Sounds
right.
like fucking Pleasantville or Demolition Man, and no fucking thank you. I don't want to live there. Moving on.
So, to the more lighter aspect of our show and how we're going to do it.
Oh, thank God! I never thought that article would end.
Yeah. We are going to do our last Smash Pass list for the month, which is live action.
Mm-hmm.
More so for fictional characters of live action stuff.
Yeah.
So okay, coin, got it. Call it.
Heads.
All right, you go first.
Okay.
All right, let me. So who was your first pick?
Captain freaking America, specifically the MCU incarnation.
Yep.
I mean, you guys are probably pretty aware of my fetishes, desires, and standards as far as my niches are concerned by now. So I feel like I don't even need to explain, but I will anyway. He is the most adorable character in the entire MCU. Would bang without a second thought, and honestly, similar to the Wiccan and Hulkling thing that I had last week. If Bucky or Peggy wanted to be involved, I wouldn't even mind, because why not?
Okay. Well, you're clearly smashing, obviously. Unless you had anything else to say.
Honestly, if you have any like male proclivities at all, and you don't at least enjoy the thought of screwing Captain America, I kind of worry for your sanity.
Okay, worry it. Go on and worry, because I see him more as like that big brother figure.
Well, I said if you had any like male proclivities, which you don't swing that way, so.
Yep.
So that doesn't count for you.
Honestly, I do think he would be a good fit for you.
I appreciate that sentiment. Hopefully, I would also be good for him, because that is the worry that I sometimes have. Like, if I ever do find someone who fits my gentle giant super jock criteria, that I wouldn't be good enough for them, or that I wouldn't contribute to the relationship.
Back away from the abyss. Back away.
All right.
Before we move on to mine, Batsy Stuff says some things. Smash Batman in his prime, not old Batman or young Bruce, but would smash in his prime.
Batman is too emo. Would not bang with a 10-foot pole. I'm invoking the ancient golden rule. Do not stick it or get stuck with it in crazy.
Also, Dick Grayson is Dick Grayson in my dreams.
Okay. I got the joke. Well played, sir.
I don't get it.
Dick and Dick. The name Dick is also the name for the male sex organ.
Okay.
He's imagining Dick
I got it.
grazing his dreams. Yes.
Yeah, I got it. I just didn't want to elicit a response.
Okay.
You're smashing. I'm obviously passing. Same thing with Batman too. Like I honestly, at any point, not really, or really hang out with. Well, I'd hang out with like maybe Jason or Dick Grayson because I seem the more well-rounded of the bunch.
Yeah, I could tolerate like Nightwing, but
Anyway, okay, moving on to mine. Okay, share. Faith Lahane from the Buffyverse. To be fair, well, okay, obviously she's like the badass female warrior. She's spunky. She's got an attitude, and I would also make the argument that she is better than Buffy. But again, she's also a very emotionally complex character, which is kind of my bread and butter.
yeah, you and your desire to fix or preserve broken people, which I suppose I shouldn't be knocking because that sort of is what we do for each other too. So there's that.
Yep. Plus, again, I'm not gonna lie, she's hot. I can't deny that.
I wouldn't expect you to. It's sort of like me drooling over Captain America there. I didn't even need to say that he's hot because the overall hotness therein, which like do I even need to say anything?
But yeah, Smash.
Honestly, because I am bi, usually I can sort of agree with you, but I think Faith might be just a little bit too much into the crazy territory for me, and I have my standard of do not stick or get stuck with crazy.
Fair enough.
Plus, I'm pretty sure she'd be like a praying mantis and would kill whoever she fucked after it was over.
I think it just depends on which one.
This is a bit of a random question. Have you ever watched Xena Warrior Princess?
I know who you're talking about. Not really watched the show itself.
I was gonna say because it just now occurred to me because we go over each other's lists a little bit beforehand, folks, and it just occurred to me that Xena Warrior Princess has not been on any of your lists, and that is odd because it seems like she would be kind of
I'm not gonna lie, it's a
up
little
your.
it's a little before my time. So that's kind of why I didn't add her because I don't know enough about her.
Okay, well if you like Buffy, you'll probably like Xena, so something to keep in mind.
I like Angel more than Buffy, like the show.
Yeah, fair. Also, Xena has Bruce Campbell, so that might be something that you'd enjoy because Bruce Campbell's fun
Probably.
in all the things.
Okay, give me a moment to open up the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, your next one, number 2 on your Smash Prize list is
Hercules from Once Upon a Time.
gee, I wonder why.
I mean, again, I have a massive thing for superhumanly strong guys or superhumanly big guys who are adorably gentle and innocent softies. So this is again probably the most self-explanatory thing ever. There's a scene in the episode where he gets he gets overprotectively angry because some like bandits are harassing the person he's with, and he punches the ground and causes an earthquake. So like that's just there is something so beautiful and amazing about that. Someone who would want to protect me so badly that they would beat the shit out of someone else. Don't judge me. Or judge me, but in this case I don't care because fuck you, that's why.
Pass.
Yeah. Smash, obviously, because that's just I mean, also it helps that in the mythology Hercules is bisexual, and he does tend to prefer smaller guys, so win.
Mm.
Of course, small compared to Hercules is God only knows, but whatever. Or I guess I should say Zeus only knows in this context because Greek, but never mind.
All right.
Moving on.
So mine is actually I'm not realizing. No, actually no. I got a pretty good variety. I was gonna say most of them are from movies, but not really. All right. So mine.
I think I split it 50-50 as well. I think.
All right. So mine is from one of my favorite movies, Mako from Pacific Rim.
Yeah. If you guys know anything about Brainstormer, you know how much he loves Pacific Rim. When we were going over this and we were chatting about it the other day, I claimed that this was the most obvious one because of how well I know Brainstormer's love for Pacific Rim.
Well, I mean, can you blame me? Like she is.
Yeah, definitely not blaming you. This is one I think I would share with you if
She's okay. She's
this
she's badass. She was trained by the commander of the Jaeger program, and raised essentially. Her adopted father is Idris Elba's. His name is like I can't remember his name. Like it's so long and just corny, but
Mhm.
and not to mention she's a great fighter. Can pilot a Jaeger.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying that she should have been like the main character of the first Pacific Rim movie, and I agree because I think she adds a really great emotional depth to the movie, and seeing that more forward from her point of view would have been cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, just like she's really cool. I can't deny that.
Yep.
So
I think the smash is mutual on this one.
yeah. All right. Now for yours, your third one.
I can't remember who I had as 3 actually. And I can't see because the screen froze.
You want to pop back? You want to leave and pop back in real quick?
Okay. Can do.
Give it a moment, folks.
Okay.
All right. Number.
Was Clark number 3?
Yep.
Yeah. I remembered all the ones I put on here. I just couldn't remember the order I put them in.
Yeah. Clark Kent from Smallville.
Yeah, specifically the Smallville incarnation, because honestly, most other versions of Superman strike me as almost too perfect to be human, and I don't think there's much room for a connection there. Plus, we see this version of Clark being like deliberately aggressive and overprotective when his friends are in trouble or whenever anyone screws with his friends. And there's something very appealing to me about that, of the idea that the one thing that could make my big gentle giant softy angry is someone fucking with me and proceeding to put someone's head through a wall or something, or in Clark's case doing much worse because I mean, come on. Yeah, he's just Tom Welling is, in my opinion, the most attractive version of Superman. Which isn't to say that other versions are unattractive or anything, but there's just a boyish charm to him that and there's also like they made Clark act like an actual jock um in Smallville, which is something I like, because in other situations where he has to hide it and he has to act like a klutz and be kind of nerdy, and it almost weirdly carries over when he's Superman. Like, he still has that aw shucks approach that sometimes can work, like in the case of Captain America, but doesn't really work for me with Superman. But does it works a lot better with this version of Clark. And again, wouldn't want to break up Lois and Clark, because God only knows what the world would do to me if I did that. But I mean, I'm biased that threesomes are on the table. And yes, everyone knows that, the joke of if Superman comes, he'd blow like a shotgun through someone's back, but that's a hell of a way to go, is all I'm saying. Smash, even though I think in this case it would be me getting smashed. Actually, in most of my cases, it would be me getting broken into pieces that vaguely resemble glass. And I'm okay with that.
Pass.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. My next one, again. Really, folks, if you've been paying attention, I clearly have a type.
Yep. Ditto for me. If you're at all surprised by any of my picks, you haven't been paying attention.
Rita Verotsky from Edge of Tomorrow, or Live Die Repeat, aka the Angel of Verdun, aka the Full Metal Bitch. It's a very, very underrated film.
Yeah, Brainstormer likes women who can kick his ass, but also need hugs. Because reason.
She's okay. She's a badass warrior. She has a helicopter blade formed into a buster sword that she wields in battle in a mech suit to fight aliens. She's also kind of an emotionally distant person because she basically went through a time loop constantly and had to watch someone she loved die over and over again until she finally kind of beat the thing and changed. Went basically she through maybe 1,000 or so years of lifetimes. She basically became this badass warrior chick. So technically, she hyperbolic the fuck out of herself in training and dying. Yeah.
It was the Doctor Strange method, or I guess in this case, Doctor Strange did the Edge of Tomorrow method.
Yeah, it came out like 2014. Holy shit.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the. Like, I remember when that movie came out. It wasn't that long ago, and now I feel old.
Yeah.
6 years.
Also, like, again, like, she's badass, but she's also able to keep her femininity, which I respect.
Yeah, and again, I'm just throwing this out there. Whenever Brainstormer gets to Dresden Files, I'm earmarking several dozen I Told You So's for when he meets Karen Murphy.
So yeah, Smash.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna go with no. There's something about her exterior that seems just a little bit too hard to me, and I don't know if I'd be willing to go the 1,000 lifetimes or whatever the fuck to try and impress her or some shit. Next.
Fair enough. Okay, so Dalton. Give me 1 sec. Okay, so you're number 4.
Mm-hmm. The screen froze again, by the way.
Will Stronghold.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically a high school age Superman, and much like the same thing of my last go. Also, most of his friends tend to be nerdy and whatnot, and he gets a kick out of defending them after the course of the movie's character development. So, yeah. I can't complain. I mean, the kid's cute and he's got the powers he has. So, yeah.
It's just super strength and flight.
Yeah.
Also, like invulnerability.
Well, I mean, that's what protection spells are for. If we dated.
Pass. It's not even just because he's a guy. It's also because I think he's too milquetoast for me.
Yeah, I mean, most of the movie is him kind of coming into his own, so we don't really know what he's like after that. But
Still, I don't know. I don't.
I guess I'm not that picky when a person is that white knighty and that powerful. I just I have no more complaints really.
Fair enough. But yeah,
Yeah,
pass.
moving on. Yeah, obviously Smash, but never mind.
Okay. Share. Yeah, so my number 4 pick is Ilsa Faust from the Mission Impossible movies. Specifically,
Mhm.
Rogue Nation and Fallout, because that's where she's
Mhm.
from, mainly. Well, she's a film fatale spy who worked for MI6 and basically went undercover to be the bad guy
Mhm.
to stop a organization of rogue spies called the Syndicate, and was basically willing to trade her soul for the protection of her country.
Yep. Spyception.
Yeah. And she's found a kinship with the Impossible Mission Force, with like Ethan
Mhm.
Hunt and everyone there, and
Mhm.
they're just good friends, and it's an honest to good bond, and I think she kind of needed it to find her humanity again.
Mhm.
Um, God, I really do have a type: badass females with kind of a broken inside.
Yes, you do.
But yeah, no, she's also like one of the best fighters out of everyone. And
Mhm.
that's not even like it's not like the whole feminist thing. Like she's just fairly competent.
Yep. Remember when female characters could just be competent and they didn't need to be a mouthpiece for an ideology? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Oh, plus expert shot. I like that. I'm just.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Smash.
Mm,
Do you
yeah,
have
why
any?
not?
Huh. That actually genuinely surprises me.
I mean, I'm not
Shallow.
I'm not that yeah, I'm not that shallow. I'm specific, but I'm not shallow.
Fair enough.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay. So your one is kind of an obscure one. You're number 5. Henry Griffin from Unnatural History.
Yes. I am about to commit slight heresy here, but I actually liked Unnatural History when it was on Cartoon Network, and I find it to be bullshit that it didn't get more seasons. The thing is he's so sweet and noble and so like multifaceted because he's been around the world and developed all these skills and all these odd habits, and I kind of enjoy the fact that with him I could have kind of an eccentricity buddy because he's into like all sorts of weird mystical and like weird philosophical traditions and stuff too, but he's also someone who's mastered like every martial art on the planet and can kick anyone's ass, even though he's just a teenager. He's built better than literally every character who's allegedly supposed to be on the football team and stuff. So, yep. Innocent plus strong plus skilled plus weird plus capable is just yes, yes to all of the above.
Pass. Mainly because I don't know anything about this. I never saw this show.
Honestly, you might want to give it a try. I think it holds up pretty good.
I remember
It's a little bit it's a little bit Buffy, a little bit Indiana Jones, and a little bit like I can't think of another. There's another element to it, but I can't think of the thing I was gonna say. A little bit of Da Vinci Code. So
I
yeah,
never paid much attention when Cartoon Network was doing all that live action stuff.
honestly, I'm probably in the minority in that. Despite the fact that it's called Cartoon Network, I didn't mind that it was live action because
some of the shows were really bad, so I just kind of turned off to all of them.
Yeah,
was the thing.
The word cartoon actually meant the short played before a feature, so it doesn't have to necessarily mean animation.
Right.
It didn't bother me that.
Yeah, no, it's just like none of them really interested me, honestly. Like none of the live action shows. So,
like I said, you might want to give Unnatural History a try. It's simple. It's on the relative level of like some of the more it's on the level of like a Ben 10 Alien Force in terms of like its writing and its maturity and stuff, but it's like a little bit of Indiana Jones, a little bit of Buffy, a little bit of Da Vinci Code kind of thing going on.
And
it does like they twist things and they obviously they make mysteries and MacGuffins out of historical events and stuff, but for the most part they actually do stick to a version of actual events, even if they do twist it for the sake of the plot and whatever. Like they take actual conspiracy theories, actual mysteries and stuff and work with it. So God damn, that show needs more seasons.
Yeah, most probably I am not going to, just because I don't really care. But but yeah, again, like I'll pass on Henry.
Yeah, and I would smash, or as per usual, like I said, most of these guys would smash me, but never mind.
Right. Okay. So this, I'm sure people will say this is a weird one. My number 5 is the Armorer from the season 1 of Mandalorian.
And it doesn't seem odd to me. It entirely fits within your type there.
Well, no, it's weird because we never see her face.
From all the other Mandalorian girls I've seen, it would surprise me if she weren't attractive. Because apparently fighting wars tends to do a body good and whatnot. So
but no, not only that, but she's kind of the wise elder, and she's a skill, like she's an armor, which is kind of a rare thing for Mandalorian culture at the time of the
Mhm.
Mandalorian, because they're all spread and stuff, like spread out across the galaxy.
Mhm.
Not to mention capable fighter, and just
Yeah.
again, just badass. I can't not.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Smash.
Pass, just because we don't know enough about her yet to make a call either way.
Fair enough. All right, your number
Next.
6 was one I was actually kind of surprised that he picked.
Hmm.
AC Slater from Saved by the Bell.
I mean, he's for one thing. Backstory. I always of all the subcategories of athletes and jocks and things, wrestlers are pretty close to the top of my list, just because the first guy that I ever had a thing for, the one that I still have one itis over, the aforementioned basically Jake Ryan of my high school, was the school's biggest and most important wrestler, so I will always have a thing for them. But also because I picked Slater because everyone in Saved by the Bell is basically the nicest, most kid friendly version of their archetype, and I mean, um, Slater is friends with someone from what otherwise would be each individual clique. Plus, he has this tendency of like bear hugging people and lifting them up off the ground, and that's very very much my bag. So and it seems to me that he has a little bit of a guy crush on Zach and Screech, but honestly, it doesn't seem like Screech appreciates him. So yeah, move over. If you're not gonna be an appreciative geek about this whole thing, then the rest of us will. But
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, pass. Just mainly just again like dude thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um. Okay. So my number 6 is Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow.
Surprising fucking no one.
Yeah. Um. Ironically, the reason why I was like in the first Avengers movie, hell, even in like Iron Man 2, I wasn't that attracted to her. Like she was cool and all. Um. But what really solidified me to like liking her was Age of Ultron, specifically like the farm scene where she told Bruce Banner uh, that she was sterilized when she was an assassin. Uh, that she's incapable of having kids, even though she wants to be a mother and stuff.
Of course, it was the vulnerability what done did it. That doesn't surprise me in the least.
Well, also she's like super funny and just again a fairly competent fighter and just all around badass. I mean, how could you not like that?
Yeah. Also, she's a redhead, and redheads are fun.
Yep. So Smash.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely would take that for a ride.
This sounds gross.
Yeah, I regretted it the first right after I said it. It was not the appropriate phrasing.
Yeah. So number 7 for Dalton. I don't know how to say his last name. It's the Degrassi guy.
Yeah, specifically the first iteration of Degrassi. He was the hockey player jock character. I almost went with Riley Stavros from Degrassi: The Next Generation, but he's a little bit too much. He's a little bit too much of a dick sometimes for me. Whereas this first one is definitely in the nice guy jock territory. So that's what makes the difference. Because playfully cocky I can handle, like with Slater. I can handle him being playfully cocky, and I might even get turned on by it. But genuinely an asshole or genuinely closed off and bitter, no, thank you. But yeah, he and this guy and Marco, I really like their relationship, and it was a stereotypical jock and nerd relationship. So it's similar to Hulkling in my comic book list. Hey guy, if nerds are your thing, then uh, look me up.
Yeah, Dylan McCulloch.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name either. It's been a while since I watched the original Degrassi. I grew up mostly during when they were releasing the Next Generation, not the original. So
Pass. Because I'm not.
Yeah, because guy.
Also, I'm not big on like jocks. So
this actually brings up an interesting question. If you swang that way, what sorts of guys do you suspect you would go for?
intelligent people like me, honestly. So I can have intelligent conversations and also just nerd out with other people.
Uh-huh. Well, like I said, if you ever feel like experimenting, let me know.
Bat City stuff. Slater played Colonel Sanders in the Extra Crispy. Played Colonel Sanders in the Extra Crispy Finger Licking Good Lifetime movie.
That was a thing? Or are you joking?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw pictures of that.
Don't you freaking hectic? What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, sure thing. Alright, so
Like Lifetime movies are disturbing just on their face, but Jesus wept blood is that weird.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 7 is this legitimately would just be a one night stand. I'm not even going to front. There's no redeemable qualities about this character. She's a full on villainess.
Mm-hmm.
Ares from John Wick Chapter 2. Fun fact, she's played by Ruby Rose. And if they had decided to use a little bit of this character in Kate Kane in Season 1, that would have been fucking cool. Nope.
Yeah, this here endeth the oh my god, Batwoman is terrible portion of the program, but it's there.
No, but she's badass. Again, like she's super. She's an assassin. She's an assassin / bodyguard. She is mute, which I don't know how to. I don't know if that would affect anything. Again, like I said, this would probably just be a one night.
It'd probably just make communication difficult unless you knew sign language.
Which could write stuff down. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she. Again, like legitimately, this would be just a one night stand, a one and done deal. Mainly, I'm worried she'd try and kill me during sex.
it's probably not a inaccurate worry.
Like she pulls a knife out and just stabs me in the chest.
Then again, you were fine with Azula, so.
Oh, because I think she is capable of being saved, bitch.
Well, yeah, but she also has lightning and can kill you with literally 2 fingers. So, in terms of like the sheer threat level we're talking about here, also Shigo, like.
Well, Shigo's more competent and well-rounded.
Yeah, she wouldn't just straight up kill you in cold blood. She might threaten to do it playfully, but she wouldn't do it, I don't think. But whereas Azula probably like is among the praying mantis style of woman there. It's like, oh, I've screwed you, therefore we're done.
The thing is, like, if Azula and I legitimately were in that position, pun intended.
But ching, and well done.
Thank you. I'd have to match her intensity to at least get her not to try and violently kill me during the act.
Yep.
But no, like I said, Ares, legitimately, this would just be like a one and done deal. Like, it's like literally the only one that I know would be just a one night stand. But yeah, Smash, don't.
Pass.
Because she's a remorseless killer and will probably just break you in half for fun of it.
Well, the breaking I don't mind. The breaking I can get behind, but the lack of empathy or emotion of it, like being broken out of love of like I love this person so goddamn much. Oh wait, I misjudged my strength and now they're broken. That turns me on like a motherfucker. But breaking out of malice, no, fuck you. Intention and intensity matters. So fuck you.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus, the don't stick your dick in crazy thing, and that bitch is.
I won't lie. My uncle, who's always told me that it's kind of more fun. I won't lie that I'm tempted sometimes, but no, I do agree with that. Yeah. So again, like I said, it's just like it would be just a one and done deal.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even submit to that because she's not that hot and she's not that interesting and is not worth the crazy. And much like Azula, I think that if you were with her, I would tell her if you so much as harm a hair on his head, you will not make it out of this room alive. Swear to fucking God.
Right. Okay. So moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was your number
8.
Yep.
Andrew Clark.
No, Fred Jones from.
Oh, okay.
Robbie Amell's Fred.
Yeah. Basically, every character that Robbie Amell has ever played could go on this list.
Yeah, he's a great actor, and legitimately, he needs to be more recognized as one.
But I love his version of Fred, even though he showed. Did no one think to give him blonde highlights? Did seriously no one think to do that?
It's a very small budget movie, so probably.
Well, I know, but does blonde hair dye really cost that much? But this version of Fred, the version that's the sweet, kind, overprotective jock who, I mean, it's not like he's dumb because he does contribute to helping solve the mysteries, but he's obviously and the movies both Mystery Begins and
Curse the Lake Monster.
Curse of the Lake Monster do make a point of showing just how strong he is, and that's very cute. Plus, there's a scene at the end of Curse of the Lake Monster where he's not wearing a shirt, and good goddamn, just take me now, and I will have no regrets, kind of situation there.
Pass. Well, mainly because I thought in the movies Fred was just kind of like, well, honestly, all of them were kind of bland.
Honestly, I like the made-for-TV movies better than I do the actual theatrical release ones,
Yeah.
which says more about how shitty those were than how good the made-for-TV ones were. But
I'm 50-50 on the live action overall. Take it or leave it,
I thought Monsters Unleashed was better than the original 2000 Scooby-Doo, but
Was it because there was actual magic and shit?
well, there's that, but there's also the fact that it actually was a homage to the original Scooby-Doo more so than it was a weird stoner comedy kind of thing.
Right. Okay. That's the stuff. I like the new live action iteration of Fred that's going to be in the live action Mystery Incorporated web series. OTS been made, but it looks like a Netflix or HBO show, and they have a real great day. Oh, you're talking about the the thing kind of looking, it's kind of based off Riverdale kind of deal. Remember I showed you that, Dalton? Mystery Incorporated web series.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't seen enough of it to say whether I would like that one in bed either. But I definitely know that Robbie Amell in general is someone I wouldn't kick out of bed, and Robbie Amell playing sweet, overprotective, hyper strong Fred Jones is just a yes. It's just an immediate win. So
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, my number 8, Sarah Lance from the Arrowverse, aka the Black Canary. Well, aka the Canary, aka Black Canary, aka White Canary.
You and your thing for assassins. I did.
Well, okay.
I've identified a subtype of you, and you tend to favor assassins.
No. She's a former assassin.
Yeah, right up until she gets the death totem, and then she goes from former assassin to supernatural assassin right quick.
No, but again, like her whole character journey from being kind of a spoiled young daughter / sibling to becoming like this master assassin to becoming a superhero is amazing. And again, she's a very emotionally complex character. And like this is like the first for me. And it's similar to like with you, Hulkley and Wiccan, and like the others who have like the iconic couples and stuff.
Yeah.
Sarah and Ava in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, you're not kicking those two out of bed.
No.
And I don't blame you. Honestly, part of me finds Ava more attractive than Sarah.
Well, okay. My also thing is like she's fun. She's also fun to be around. She doesn't take herself so super seriously like others do.
I feel like in my case, if I were on the Wave Rider, I feel like John would try to hit on me, and I would just be like, "No, this is not happening. No, John."
Yeah. No, it's just like, yeah, no. She's awesome. Like I don't really like the CW shows that much, but she's like one of the better parts of the Arrow, honestly.
So smash then.
Yeah, I'm smashing. You?
Yeah, and oddly enough, more so if she brings Ava along. I like Ava a little better than Sarah, I think.
Right.
So that is a threesome I would sign up for in a heartbeat.
I wasn't even thinking about that when I picked her.
But it's a very nice thought, though, isn't it?
I'm not commenting. Okay. Yeah. So your number 9 is Andrew Clark from The Breakfast Club, right?
Yep. Again, very similar to AC Slater. He's a nice guy, and the fact that he's a wrestler harkens me back to the first guy I ever fell for. That I still kind of have a thing for. So, yeah, where do you go wrong? I mean, His also he's a bit. His whole thing is about like wanting to have someone love him for him and wanting someone to like be soulful and nurturing towards him and stuff. So I I feel like my influence on him would be a good thing, and that does help with the fantasy because I get horrified by the notion that someone else's good heart might project more goodness onto me than I deserve, and I wouldn't actually be any good for them. But in Andrew's case, he's got that damaged, for lack of a better word, core that needs soothing and massaging and loving. So I feel like I would be good for him, and he's hot. So yeah, win.
Yeah. Pass. All right. All right. So moving to my number 9, which is Agent May of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, this was the other one that I was like, and I was expecting to see this.
Again, badass. Like, she's known as the Cavalry. Like, she's one of the best S.H.I.E.L.D. agents out there. She's actually, like, again, like, she's very emotionally complex, even though she tries to hide it often.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know she ends up with Coulson, obviously.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to break them up, but I'm not willing to share her. Honestly, I'm not.
You want her to make a man out of you? Badum ching. Because Minya win.
No, I got you. I knew what was up, dude. I just.
The puns aren't done right unless somebody's groaning. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Or would you rather have a girl worth fighting for?
But also she's also like kind of the mother figure of the group. Well, Coulson's kind of like the father figure.
Mm-hmm.
So again, she's kind and caring, even though she doesn't want to act like that. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I think it'd be fun to kind of just like push her, push her buttons a little bit.
You'd wind up pinned to a wall.
I'm not opposed to that.
I didn't think you would. I'm just pointing out the likelihood of what would happen. You'd push her buttons, and then she would push you up against the wall and pin you there for like 20 minutes. Although that may or may not be plenty of time to do what needs to be done. I don't know.
Okay, well, you went weird when you started to go more into it, dude.
What? I'm not allowed to enjoy things?
Weird dude, Dalton. Weird dude.
As though you didn't already know.
You keep getting weirder.
I hope so.
All right.
I never want to become boring.
All right, you're number 10, which honestly both disgust me and also just why?
Look, the Twilight Saga is good for exactly 2 things: eye candy and relationship porn.
All right, so number 10, Jacob Black from Twilight.
Well, the Twilight Saga, he's not very attractive in Twilight. Mostly I'm basing this off of his behavior in the beginning of New Moon before he gets all wolf rage over the whole vampire thing. Because I get the feeling that if he weren't exposed to those assholes, he would have stayed that nice and that nurturing the whole way through. And I mean, come on, his biceps are bigger than my head, so not complaining. Also the whole imprinting loyalty thing. If he imprinted on me instead of Renesmee at the end of the series. Also, werewolves basically mature to their prime and then stay that way their whole lives. So, yep. Again, not saying Twilight's good, not saying the movies are good, but they are good for relationship porn. And I almost said Emmett Cullen as well, but I didn't because apart from the fact that we know, despite his size, Emmett likes playing chess, and that's about it. Yeah, we don't really get much of Emmett. Plus, in the books, Jacob is 6'7", and that makes him even hotter. So there's that. Call it a guilty pleasure if you like.
Oh, wait. No, I'm not going to call it guilty pleasure. I'm going to do this.
Oh, no.
Are you good? You feel better now?
Oh, no.
I'm good now. I feel like I need to do that a second time.
Okay, that's why I asked. I wanted to get out of your system, or you to get it out of your system. So, are you good? Can we move on?
Yeah. So, pass. Because I have self-respect. No offense.
None taken. Like I said, call it a guilty pleasure if you like. But honestly, Jake gets done dirty in the Twilight franchise. The dude is adorable, and he gets no love. So, fuck that bitch, boy. Just come and be with someone who will actually care about you.
Yeah. All right. So my number 10 I'm sure this one kind of surprised Dalton a little bit.
I mean, not entirely. It wasn't one I was expecting to see necessarily, but not entirely.
Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Was mostly surprised by this just because I wasn't that familiar with Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I think you'd like it. It's super funny, man. Like, I think it's up your alley.
Maybe I'll give it a watch. Some of the
it's made by the guy who did The Office and Parks and Rec. So, but she is a detective for the NYPD of the 99th precinct in Brooklyn. Hence Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's a badass again, and also just again, like she's hilarious. Like her interactions with her friends and coworkers are just hilarious. Like she's eccentric, but also like down to earth as well. Also, she's bi, so threesomes are on the table technically.
Okay.
I mean, I do think she prefers just a single intimate relationship, which I'm also fine with. But you know, whenever it happens, I suppose. But no, like she's just tough, and she was surprisingly one of the more emotional characters that I latched onto in the series.
Yeah, and once again, earmarking the "I told you so's" for Karen Murphy when you get to her later in in Dresden Files.
Plus, I think she's the only
Latina?
Yeah.
Neat. I can't comment one way or the other because I'm not familiar enough with Brooklyn Nine-Nine to say so. So there's that.
I'll smash. Whatever he is.
I suspend judgment until I'm more informed.
Whole series. Well, not the whole. First 7 seasons are on Hulu, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, those are our Smash Pass list, folks. Fairly simple, fairly well playing the type, I suppose.
Yeah. If you're a longtime fan of this show, you probably won't be surprised by anything we do by the end, because we're fairly consistent people, and we have our idiosyncrasies and we stick to them.
Yeah, so with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Good luck, find love, and fuck